muted right now. Yeah, hello.
It's pretty run around the whole room pressing this on the wall.
Oops. It's muted right now.
Now you have to feel it.
We'll just leave this going. Don't give out any secrets because it's not recorded right now. Are you playing any video? Oh, this is not.
Nope.
Okay. Clean that up.
Alex.
Business intelligence, you have to do a presentation, scholarship, and
We're about to start.
some of them are like a requirement for a major. Some of them it's just like some of them are just like a group of people that are presenting are literally just doing a project that they did for class, and they're just like, oh yeah, we like it. You're doing a presentation scholarship. It's like really.
If I can predict them, if I can infer.
Need a fill
I
I can do
guess.
some inferential analysis.
It just seems like you'd rather have like better.
I get a place here. Just clean it up for you. Playing a video or anything?
No,
Okay.
we're just using Excel.
Okay. And you have that open? Welcome.
Data mining is only a fall class, and then I'm taking big data analytics in the spring. So data mining, what?
That's the one.
Data mining is that
When you're
is
ready,
the
I'm
one
gonna do
presentation.
You gotta remember, I've done so
I think.
But Amanda's in.
Ooh. Yeah.
So there'll be tough questions coming at this one. Just kidding. So whenever, I'll do the
Just forgetting to play. How bad am I doing?
If you want to send it to all the screens.
Okay, at least I'm doing better than Patrick and Karen.
Angel's only losing
How far are you guys in the game?
Oh, hey.
30 times.
Huh?
So that's exactly what I asked.
Seen your opinion. Go on the wall.
That's more than us. You better beat her by more
Okay,
than
we'll
I am.
get started here
I'm
today.
gonna make it a close.
I am Professor Marcin, teach out of the business department. I exclusively teach the business intelligence and data analytics program. Also, we're launching a business intelligence program for the graduate level soon, and I'm the program director of that. So what we have today in this whole room is analytics presentations. So if you're interested in this one, there's more to come. Lots of good work coming here today. And so we have Jeremy, Marcin, and Nathan going to talk a little bit about NBA and some analysis that they've done. Pretty cool things. I won't steal their show for you, but from them. But welcome.
Okay. So thanks for coming. I'm Marcin, this is Nate, and Jeremy. The title of our presentation is Inferential Analysis, Predicting Future Success of NBA Players. And it's just part of our Business Intelligence Analytics class. So first, we just wanted to briefly explain what Business Intelligence Analytics is. So it's a pretty broad term, and it can be defined in many different ways. But on the basic level, it boils down to using data to assist in making business decisions. Because if you think about it, from a business perspective, what really matters is how you can use your statistical analysis and how you can translate it into more effective business decisions. And what we did for this particular project, we were trying to predict which NBA players are the most likely to make it to the NBA Hall of Fame. And excuse me. And what we did, we looked at current NBA Hall of Famers to kind of understand what qualities or accomplishments help them to make it to the NBA Hall of Fame. And before Nate explains our model more in depth, Jeremy would just start with a short game.
All right, so before we get into the actual meat of the project, we have a little game for you guys. So first of all, how many of you are NBA fans or just basketball fans in general? Alright, cool. So what we have is a little guessing game for you. We have a short list of current NBA players, and we want you guys to guess whether our model predicted them to be in the Hall of Fame or not. So the first up we have Stephen Curry. So how many of you believe that he would be in the Hall of Fame? Or, I guess before I should just say this, that our model is based on their current stats as of right now. So you have to ask yourselves, if these players retired like today, then would they still be in the Hall of Fame? So, yes. So Steph Curry, how many of you would believe that he'd be in the Hall of Fame? Okay, so that's what you know.
It's actually no, because he just missed out on a couple of the variables that we predicted for these NBA basketball players. He was really close, but as of right now, and according to our model, he's not yet there yet.
Next up, we have LeBron James. Yes, he would be. Like, LeBron is widely considered to be like one of the best players in the league, and he has been pretty much since his whole career. So it's really no surprise that he would be considered for the Hall of Fame. Next up, we have Chris Paul.
Okay.
Some yes, some no, and the answer is no. Like, he's pretty similar to Steph Curry. He just missed out on a few things. Like, he was pretty close, but not close enough. And finally, we have Carmelo Anthony. Yes,
We're right.
Thank you all for playing, and now, now Nathan's going to go more in depth with our model.
All right, so here on this page we have all of our basketball players that we kind of analyzed. We got current Hall of Famers on the left and potential Hall of Famers who are still playing here on the right. As you can see on the left, Michael Jordan is almost 100% prediction on whether he should make the Hall of Fame. Of course, he's still in the Hall of Fame right now, but this kind of shows, whether he deserves to be in the Hall of Fame or not. So as you can see, he was clearly number one. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar at 99%, same as Julius Erving, Karl Malone, and then it goes all the way down to John Stockton at 64%. And according to our model, this is the cutoff line for whether players should make the NBA Hall of Fame or not. And I'll explain more in depth of how I got the 64%. And then below him is Isaiah Thomas. This is Isaiah Thomas that played for Detroit Pistons, not the Isaiah Thomas that plays for the Boston Celtics. He actually just missed the cut at from the 64%. He was at 63%. And then on the right, we got potential Hall of Famers, ones who are either towards the end of their career or kind of in the middle. Dirk Nowitzki is at 99%, and then Kevin Durant 98, James Harden 72, and then all the ones below him are players that missed on the cut, and it goes all the way down to Tyson Chandler at 1%. So next, I'm going to explain how we got these numbers and what our model is all about. All right, so here's our training data. Basically, what our training data is we essentially train our model to get the most accurate results that we can, and then we use it on our test data, which is the data that we're trying to predict. So I'll explain that in a little more in depth as I get going. But as you can see, here's our people that are in the Hall of Fame that we analyzed, and then here are the variables up here. These are the ones that we kind of went through and decided, what all of the Hall of Famers kind of have in common. Some, have more or played more than 10 years. Some have not. Some have played more 5 All-Star appearances and stuff like that. And what the ones and zeros basically mean is that, if you played more than 10 years, the one means yes, you played more than 10 years. And the zeros means no, you haven't played more than 10 years. And it goes all the way across from all of our variables. So, in addition to the 10 years, a couple of my other variables are 5 more All-Star appearances, 5 more All-NBA teams made. This includes both offensive and defensive teams. 1 or more NBA championships, 1 or more MVPs, and so on. All the way down to career field goal percentage of 48% or more. And then it also includes our intercepted. Basically what this says is, everybody kind of has somewhat of a shot of making the Hall of Fame. And then up here is our same variables, but these are the coefficients. This tests how strongly correlated our variables is to our model, and the numbers are between -2 and 2. So the higher the variable is, or the higher, or the closer it is to 2, the more strongly correlated the variable is, and the closer it is to -2, the less it's correlated with the data. And then the closer it is to 0, it kind of shows no correlation. Like if you were to have more than one NBA championships, it doesn't really affect it as much as some of the other ones, like 5 or more All-Star appearances or the NBA teams. And then down here, we analyze 20 other players that are actually retired, but they did not make the Hall of Fame. And then over here is our predictions. You know, as you can see, Tracy McGrady, 72%. Michael Jordan, which I already said before, 100%. And then Isaiah Thomas, 63%. And here are the ones down here for the ones that did not make the Hall of Fame and whom are retired. So the 2 that were kind of the closest was Tim Hardaway and Chris Webber at 43% and 57%. So they were relatively close to the 64% threshold. And then over here assesses the accuracy and of our model. And the sum squared error, we're trying to get that down as closest to 0 as possible to ensure that it's accurate. And it's at 2.28, and yes, you may be asking yourself, this is relatively low, but you gotta remember, we're only analyzing 40 rows of data. So if we were to analyze, let's say 1,000, 2,000 rows, our sum error would probably be greater. And then our R squared value assesses the accuracy of the model as well. So a 0.77 is relatively good. And I would say anywhere between, I would say below 0.4, 0.3, it probably wouldn't be as good, and we probably either have to look at some more data, or we would have to play around with the variables more to see, you know, if that would make our model stronger.
And just to jump in real quick, this value is always between 0 and 1, so basically the closer to 1, the better.
Yep. And then over here is how we came up with our 64%, and this is called a true positive, false, negative test. And this kind of tests whether, you know, we should use 60% as the cutoff, 64%, 70%. So over here we got 20 players that are not in the Hall of Fame, and then 20 players that are in the Hall of Fame. And what we're trying to do, we're trying to match up the actual results with our model results. And as you can see, it doesn't match up quite as nice. So we kind of played around with 60%, 70%, 80%. Which, you know, that wasn't very good. And then we looked at 65%, still not matching up. And then we looked at 64%. And as you can see, the actual matched up with the model results perfectly. And basically what these mean over here, the true positive. So let's say, you know, we analyzed the 20 players that were in the Hall of Fame, and our model came back that 19 deserved to be in the Hall of Fame. And then the false positive, it's the same thing. We analyzed 20 players that are in the Hall of Fame, and it turns out that one of those 20 players should not make the Hall of Fame, and that was Isaiah Thomas, like I mentioned earlier. Then the false negative, this means that we analyzed the 20 players that did not make the Hall of Fame, but it turns out that 19 should not make the Hall of Fame, and then the one that did was actually Kobe Bryant, and his prediction was 98%, which is pretty close up to Michael Jordan, LeBron James, stuff like that. So that's our training data. And then over on our test data, it's basically the same thing, except for we got the same 20 people that are in the Hall of Fame up here. And then we got 20, then this is the people that we're trying to predict and whom we care about the most. And those are the players, like I said before, that are currently still in the NBA, still playing. And what we basically do is we copy and paste our model results for our coefficients into our test data so that we can use those, you know, same coefficients for our test data. And so we're going to play around a little bit. So as I mentioned before, and you know, I think Marcin or Jeremy mentioned it earlier, that Steph Curry didn't make the Hall of Fame, and I think he only had a percentage of like 40% or so. But let's say we go over to the variables that were most strongly correlated with the model. And so Steph Curry, he actually has 4 All-Star appearances, I believe. Let's just say he had 1, or let's just say he did have 5 or more. So I believe he was at 40%, and now look at his percentage. So that's all it takes for him to make the Hall of Fame. Just 1 more All-Star appearance, and his percentage would move up that much. Because of the fact that, you know, 5 or more All-Star appearances is crucial to the model's results. Okay. Next, I'm gonna have an audience member kind of included in our model. So are there any like basketball players that have played a lot over the years? I know you have. Okay. So let's put you in there, model. I know you're not an NBA basketball player, but for the sake of this, I'm just gonna try to see, try to get you guys to kind of see how this works. So Matt, have you played 10 or more years?
Yes.
Nathan, maybe freeze pains. Go on, put you on the spot, but. There you go.
Oh, that's what.
I'll roll
Just copy and paste.
Roll one blank.
I'll just keep going. So Matt, have you played 10 or more years?
Yes.
Okay. Have you had any All-Star appearances, like at all?
No.
No.
We could suggest that's like all conference or.
Okay. All conference.
State.
5 or more. No. Come on.
We could have kept it.
What about like an all conference, all NBA, or not all conference team? Have you made 5 more?
No.
No. Have you had a state championship at all?
Yes.
Yes. Really?
6th grade.
Oh yeah.
Should be a one.
Yeah. Don't forget that. Have you had an MVP?
Yes.
Have you had 10,000 or more points?
Only in the driveway.
Have you had a career average of 15 points or more?
No.
Have you had 5,000 or more assists?
Probably not.
No? Have you had 10,000 more rebounds? I know you get quite a bit of rebounds, but that's a
Let's
lot.
put yeah for that one.
Yeah? Career average of 8 rebounds per game or more.
No.
No? Um, 6 assists.
Yes.
400 double doubles.
No.
And then a career field goal percentage of 48% or more.
No.
And then I'll give you a 1 because you deserve some shot at making the team. 18%. So not too bad. And of course, you're not an NBA player, like I said. So, but yeah, that's just kind of to get you guys to see like how this model works. So yeah, that's our training and test data, and then I'll hand it over to Marcin. He's going to explain how our project relates to business.
Sure, so we basically believe that the management of any NBA team could just use our model to see which NBA players are the most likely to make it to the NBA Hall of Fame. Because these players tend to be superstars, and obviously superstars are the guys who attract big audiences and therefore generate a lot of revenue for the franchise. And Nate can give you a great example. Philadelphia 76ers to kind of explain.
So like Marcin said, everybody wants to go to a basketball game where there's really good players, like star caliber players like LeBron James, even Karl Anthony Towns with the Minnesota Timberwolves. He's projected to be a really good player in this league. So one quick example is Philadelphia 76ers. They haven't been good for 10 years, ever since Allen Iverson left. So if management were to kind of look at our model, kind of see what players project to be really good Hall of Fame players or All-Star players, and what they can do is they can use those players to try to attract more fans to the games, and thus more revenues and profits as well.
Yeah, they could basically focus their recruiting efforts on this particular players because, as I said, these are the guys that are gonna bring the most fans and revenues. So
yeah, that concludes our presentation. Does anybody have any questions? Amanda.
Okay, I have 2 questions. One, why did you choose to code your variables as between -2 and 2?
Yeah, we actually used, instead of a linear model, we used a log model, and that way you can choose you know, you can choose -2 and 2. You can go up as high as like -5 to 5. And we kind of just played around a lot with that. And I came to the conclusion that -2 and 2 kind of best suits our model. So that's how I came up with those.
Plus what it does, it basically pushes all the values for your predictions between 0 and 1. So it's easier to understand.
Oh yeah, like for linear, if you were to use that, you can have values outside of 0 and 100%, which is kind of weird, and it wouldn't really make sense for our model. So if we use the log model, it would push all those variables between 0 and 100%.
And then, what was your strongest variable predictor?
I believe it was either the All-Star appearances. It's actually a 5 or more All-NBA teams made.
Yeah, but as you can see, MVPs.
Yeah, MVP is pretty high. Oh yeah, actually MVP was the most. So yeah, these 3 were by far strongest predictors.
Okay. I actually have one more question. Did you get all this data just from like researching online, or did you?
We went to basketballreference.com.
So you manually entered it in?
Yeah,
Okay.
it took a while to do, but once we got it down, and we just kind of boom, boom, boom. So
I'm curious, what if you were able to acquire the data, what other variables might make this model stronger yet? I mean, I recognize it's strong already.
Yep.
But what other variables in the influence my question is, I saw Vince Carter down there wasn't predicted to get in. And I'm thinking in the back of my mind, shoot, he had the most influential dunk contest performance of all time.
Yeah.
You know, should dunk contest appearance be a variable in this model? What other variables would help this?
I would say one thing we left out is 3-point shooting and career 3-pointers made. If that were the case, I think Steph Curry would definitely get in, probably because, you know, he's arguably one of the better shooters of all time, and that, you know, other great shooters would make it as well. I don't know if there's any.
So having rebounds and not 3-point might favor the big guys.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Also, I'm curious if you ran into any multicollinearity issues, because I saw years in the league as one variable, and then rebounds per game as another variable, and then total rebounds.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering if you combine years in the league with rebounds per game, if that doesn't measure already for total rebounds.
Yeah.
Is there multicollinearity by including too many variables that measure the same thing?
Yeah, we were considering probably throwing these out because it really, I mean, if you look at it, it really doesn't make as much sense. We kind of bounced around with that a little bit. And maybe we did have an error, maybe something like that, but we just left it on there just for the sake of the model.
Okay.
Anybody else have any questions?
Do we know the actual criteria that these guys use to pick an actual player or not?
Like the criteria that we think that NBA basketball players should have?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
a group of
The
people.
NBA, does the NBA give
Oh,
out the list of criteria?
I don't think so. I didn't really look around. We kind of just looked at current like Hall of Famers and kind of looked at their stance and analyzed like where the cutoff should be, you know. And that's kind of how we got our variables up here.
So they don't use a model. They use, they say, their bias.
They vote.
So basically, they vote.
Oh yeah, they vote. Yeah, I think the fans vote. I think, and maybe they have a NBA Hall of Fame ballot or board that chooses whether people should be in the Hall of Fame or not. I think it's a little bit of both with fans and board members. But I'm not sure if they have an actual criteria or not. I'm not exactly
So
sure.
the model basically predicts that previous bias is going to stay in the future, and they're going to, let's say, pick more people based on this bias somehow.
Yeah, I guess they could.
Yeah, basically what we were trying to do was come up with our own variables and create a whole model from scratch. So we didn't really care like how they do it. We just ask ourselves a question like, if we were to predict or which players deserve to be in the Hall of Fame, like what kind of statistics or accomplishments should we use? That was basically our thought process.
In column E, that variable has a lot of, a very weak.
Yeah, it does.
So what is the value of keeping in the model?
Are you talking about?
Yeah, he's talking about the 10 years.
One or more NBA championships.
Oh. It does have some value because it's not 0. If it was 0, it literally has absolutely no correlation. So it has some value, but not as much as his other 3, of course.
We wanted to leave it kind of for educational purposes, so to speak, to show you that when you work in a model, you don't always get, like a perfect correlation. So this is expected to happen.
Yep. Anybody else?
Melissa, do you have a question?
So I'll go listen through the door for Billy's presentation real quick.